We just finished Parshat Pekudei, where the Torah ends with the Mishkan going up. The Torah tells us that the krashim in the Mishkan were omdim. They were standing, meaning you did not lay the krashim so, but rather standing up. The beams of the Mishkan had to be standing. The Gemara tells us from this word, omdim, we learn not just that they had to be standing, but we learn that the Mishkan was omed la'olme'ad, forever. The Mishkan always stood. And the question is, what does that mean, that the Mishkan always stood? The Mishkan was for 40 years. That's all it was, while we were in the Midbar, in the desert. What does it mean forever? And there are different explanations. Some say that when the Beit HaMikdash HaShlishi, the third Beit HaMikdash, will be built, the Mishkan will be there at the side of the Beit HaMikdash. It's going to be there as well. And that's what it means, the Mishkan is here forever. But the Siporno tells us what it means is that the Mishkan is the only house of Hashem that was never destroyed. Yes, it was only here for 40 years, but no one destroyed it. Bayis Rishon, the first Beit HaMikdash, was destroyed. Second Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. The Mishkan was never destroyed. Why? So the Siporno tells us, if you want to understand why something has a kiyum, why something has in it a lasting power, that it will be here forever and never be destroyed, you have to go back and look at the root. You have to turn back and look behind you. See where it came from. Who built the Mishkan? The Mishkan was built by Moshe Rabbeinu with Betzalel. Whereas the Beit HaMikdash, yes, it was built by Shlomo, but he had Gentiles who helped him in the building. Second Beit HaMikdash was built by Koresh. So when the building is built by Moshe with Betzalel, meaning with the sweat and blood of Moshe Rabbeinu, you know it's going to have lasting power. Rav Aram Kotler compares this to a medrash. The medrash tells us, we know Esther did not tell her lineage. She had the ability, no matter how Achashverosh pressured her, to tell him what was her lineage. Where did she come from? Ein Esther Magedet. Esther did not tell. She had the incredible strength to keep her mouth closed. And the Medrash tells us, where did she get this from? Because remember, if someone has something beautiful, we need to look back and see what's the root. Just like the Mishkan had lasting power because of the root, the foundation, Moshe Rabbeinu who built it, so too, you want to know, where did Esther get this power of Ein Esther Magedet? She doesn't talk. Where did she get that strength? Go back to Shaul HaMelech. The Navi, Shmuel HaNavi, tells us how Shaul HaMelech was an Mishichmai Lamala. Before he became king, he was an outstanding, above all, young man. His father, Kish, the Navi tells us, sends him on a mission. They lost some donkeys. And the Navi goes through a story how Shaul travels together with his assistant, with someone looking for the donkeys. His father sent him on a mission to find lost donkeys. And he meets up with Shmuel HaNavi. Now, Shmuel HaNavi received a prophecy in Nevuah the day before from Hashem, that there's a man that's going to come to you and he's going to be the next king. And you're to anoint him and to tell him this message, that he's going to be the king. Shmuel HaNavi meets him, Shaul, gives him this message, and the Navi elaborates in this story. But when Shaul leaves, after he's anointed, and he comes back, he meets his uncle, and his uncle asks him, Shaul, what happened there with the meeting you had with Shmuel? What did he tell you? And Shaul answers, he told me how to find the lost donkeys. Now, it's true, he did tell him that, but he also told him about his becoming king. But Shaul doesn't talk about that. He keeps his mouth closed. And that Yesod that he laid, Shaul, to keep your mouth closed. Watch your mouth. His granddaughter Esther inherited that. So if you want to know where Esther got it from, look back at the foundation. Shaul HaMelech. And the Medrash continues. Shaul HaMelech, where does he come from? He comes from Binyamin. We know every Shevet had a stone on the breastplate that the Kohen Gadol wore. Binyamin's stone was Yashveh. Yeshpo, Yashveh, Yud, Shin, Fei, Hey. Medrash tells us, you take that word, Yud, Shin, Fei, Hey, you make two words out of it. Yesh, Peh. There is a mouth. What does that mean, there is a mouth? He had a mouth because he watched his mouth and he didn't use it in the wrong way. What does that mean? The Medrash tells us that Binyamin knew about the secret that the brothers sold Yosef. He knew. How he knew is a question, but he knew. And he guarded his mouth. He didn't share the secret with anyone. That incredible strength was laying a foundation in guarding your mouth. He merited Shaul. Shaul merited Esther. Always look back at the root. And the Medrash continues. Yes, Binyamin had this great trait. But where did Binyamin come from? Rachel. Rachel merited also. She kept her mouth closed. What does that mean? She knew what Lavan was going to do. That Lavan was giving Leah to Yaakov. But she kept quiet. She really laid the foundation with that incredible Mesirat Nefesh of watching her mouth. She merited a son, Binyamin. From him came Shaul, came Esther. Ein Esther Magedet, Esther doesn't tell, and the entire Jewish nation is saved. B'schut Esther. Where did it come from? Look back. Look back at the foundation. When you build a foundation, when you plant a seed with tears, with blood, with Mesirat Nefesh, it's going to merit greatness. And the Medrash continues. We all know that David HaMelech wrote Sefer Tehillim. Probably the most famous pasuk in Sefer Tehillim is Hodul Hashem ki tov ki l'olam chazdo. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. One of the most famous psukim, Hodul Hashem ki tov ki l'olam chazdo. Where did David HaMelech get this from? And the Medrash tells us he got it from Yehuda, who got it from Leah. We know Leah is the one that created thanks. When she had Yehuda, she said, there are 4 wives. Each wife should have 3 children, 3 sons, 3 shvatim, to make the total of 12. Why am I meriting a 4th son? And she said, Hoda, thank you. Hapam Odeh, I say thank you. And she put that in his name, Yehuda. And from that, we have David HaMelech saying Hodul Hashem. You want to know where Hodul Hashem ki tov ki l'olam chazdo came? That for thousands of years, Jews scream that and say that, Hodul Hashem, where'd it come from? You got to look back. Look back at Leah. She said it. She laid the foundation. Greatness comes from somewhere. You got to always turn around and look back. Rashi tells us when the 3 Arabs that were actually angels came to visit Avraham Avinu, and Avraham Avinu went out and he served them. He served them bread himself. And because of that he himself served those 3 people, the 3 Arabs, the 3 angels, the bread himself, we merited that Hashem should serve us, the man, directly. And because he walked the Arabs, the 3 angels, out himself, we merited that Hashem guided us in the desert. We had the Ananim. But when it came to giving them the water, it says, Yukach namat mayim. The water was given to the 3 angels through his shaliach, through his eved. Avraham Avinu didn't do it himself. And that's why the water came through a rock. We had to hit the rock to get the water, not direct from Hashem. Where the foundation is laid with blood, we can build forever. We need to understand, when we see greatness, we have to look around behind us. Where did that come from? And on the other hand, if we want to build greatness and we want to have future generations, we've got to lay the foundation with blood. Look behind you to see what created the greatness, and think about planting seeds, building foundations with blood and sweat, so we could merit future greatness from ourselves.